Welcome to the Orange County Forum, where newsmakers keep you informed about local, national, and global issues that impact Orange County today.
As we stand here today, or sit here today, before we take on the White Sox again tonight, this has been a season with a lot of stories, a lot of interesting intrigue, and on and off the field. So we find ourselves in the midst of a pennant race, and I think our quote-unquote mystery guest would agree that when we start this journey in spring training, if you say that we are going to be in this race in August and September, that's what we all ask for. This is an organization, and I've said this many times in the community, when Mike Scioscia took over in 2000, we had a particularly bad year in 1999. Just a particularly bad year. On the field, off the field, a lot of changes, and Mike came in. We used to have to write a prospectus to talk about what we thought would happen in the year ahead. And in the year going into 2000, in our prospectus, we used the word compete. Compete. We expect to compete in the Western Division this year. And Mike pulled me aside in my office and we had a conversation. He goes, I know 99 was tough, but he goes, the one word I will never use is the word compete. I'll use the word contend. Because contend, even in the business world, contend is a definitive statement. It's almost a commitment. Compete is hoping everything falls together. So every year, particularly since 2002 and under this ownership, we expect to contend. And we've certainly had our ebb and flow. We had a tough run early on in the season, and we had a great run prior to the All-Star break. And we're still trying to find that offensive consistency right now, but our pitching staff has done a tremendous job. We've made some roster adjustments. A couple things, tweaks here and there. We're hoping to get David Freese back on the roster very shortly, I think within the next week. We saw what happens when we have Eric Ivar out of the lineup even for a short period of time. But you find some things along the way that you don't expect. A year ago we find Matt Shoemaker and win 16 games. This year Andrew Heaney stepped up. So, as much as you lay everything pen to paper, at the end of the day you have to have something of the unexpected come to help you succeed where you want to be. And we expect to play in October, and we do not expect to play as a wild card team. We expect to play as division champions and raising another banner out there on those flagpoles. And I would tell you something, having been through as I say, the journey through the desert from 1986 to 2002, it's nice to be able to make a public statement like that because we really do believe it. We really do. It's not just hoping. It's not just public relations eyewash. We expect to win, and when we don't, there is nobody more disappointed than the folks in our front office. If we don't achieve our goal, and I think Houston will talk about it. Mike Scioscia delivers very few messages in spring training, very few. But one of the things he talks about is spring training game, whether it's a spring training game, a regular season game, or a postseason, it's still a baseball game. And all we control at that moment is tonight's game. We can't worry about Houston, we can't worry about Texas, we can't worry about anything else. We have to focus on the Chicago White Sox tonight. And that is really the focus of this group. We have a great group downstairs. And all the teams I've been around, tremendous personalities, tremendous people. They care about each other, they work together. And I think at the end of the day, when you go through this long marathon, that's eventually what helps you win out. So what I'd like to do now is introduce you to a gentleman that we were fortunate enough to secure his services last year and then tied him up to an extension this year. In my career, Houston is one of the most articulate, well thought out, disciplined, I'm not going to say players, I'm going to say individuals that I've ever met. But he is as articulate as anybody I've been around. He is a writer's dream, and they absolutely enjoy the opportunity to speak with him. Houston attended Westlake High School in Austin, Texas from 1997 to 2001, where he lettered in both football and baseball. He was an all-district and all-state performer in both sports. He attended the University of Texas. Anybody here? Okay, from 2001 to 2004, where he was widely regarded as one of the best collegiate closers of all time. He helped his team win the Collegiate World Series in, of all years, 2002. A year later, led the Longhorns to the series semifinals, and in 2004, he helped them to the finals, only to lose to the Titans up the freeway. In 2010, he was named to the NCAA College World Series Legends team. He's pitched for Oakland, Colorado, San Diego, and the Angels, and we hope for us it's the end of the road for many years to come. On July 22nd of this season, Houston became the 27th pitcher in baseball history to reach the 300 save level, a tremendous accomplishment. He and his wife Lacey have 3 sons, Ripken, Ryder, and Rafe, and Rafe was just born in the last month. Houston attended the birth and then attended the game and was in the bullpen later that evening. There's the dedication. He is the son of former University of Texas quarterback James Street, a Texas icon, and I really ask that you kind of focus a question or two on his dad, because the importance of family really is illustrated in Houston Street. And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I would tell you that the 3 sons that he and Lacey have, are in good position if they learn and follow in their father's footsteps. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, Houston Street. First thing we're going to ask Houston is, Houston with H-U-S-T-O-N, what happened to the O?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my parents wanted a Texas name. People from Texas were pretty proud of that. We talk about it all the time. So my parents decided they were going to name me Houston. They took out the O because they didn't want people to think I was named after the city. But if I was a girl, I was going to be Dallas, and if I was a boy, I was going to be Houston. So that's what it was.
You talk about that night here in this ballpark, reaching the 300 level, what it meant to you individually, and what it meant to you when your teammates congratulated you on the field.
Yeah, I think the individual part I'll touch on quickly. You set goals when you come into this league. Your first goal is to just establish yourself, to play baseball the best you can be. I was always taught, you mentioned my dad, that winning was being the best you could be. So I never really set a goal for 300 saves individually. It was just kind of play the next day, and I guess reaching 300 was just kind of a testament to that one day at a time approach. I wanted to get there mainly because it started getting to a point where people were asking about it every single day. And you don't want to be a distraction to your team. At the same time, you want to get there because you just knock on wood. You never know what's going to happen, and the curse of 299 or something like that. But, I would tell people, it's July. If I don't get one more save for the rest of the year, this is a bad year. So yes, of course I expected to get it, but most importantly to me was not only on the field, but when I came in the clubhouse, Albert and Trout and Soj and the whole team had really put together. They had some champagne right there and allowed me to give a toast. And when you go through this game, one of the things that I learned most from the veteran guys that I looked up to, Jason Kendall, Barry Zito, Frank Thomas, guys that have played with Mike Piazza, and now being on this team with Albert Pujols, is the best players. They don't play for 300. They don't play for $20 million. They play because they love to compete. They play because they love the battle. They love, and they're always challenging themselves. They're always playing against themselves. Why is Albert Pujols still playing baseball? I mean, he's got 552 home runs. Is he chasing 755? I don't think so. I think he's chasing himself. I think he shows up every single day to be the best he can be. And so reaching 300 was just kind of one more stepping stone in your own mind of, all right, you've done something, but let's keep it going. Mariano got 652, so I got a ways to go.
A closer is measured against perfection. How do you handle the emotions of a game such as Sunday night and then coming back last night within 24 hours?
I think that applies to everybody. I think we all have massive letdowns. I mean, I can handle the games truthfully where you get beat. Well, those games are easy to handle. The game Sunday night was tough to handle because I beat myself. I walked a hitter, Drew Butera, who's in the big leagues, but a hitter I should be able to get out. Pitched around Hosmer to start off the inning, which he hit the homer the game before, and sometimes you just get tentative. And sometimes it takes games like that to put your mind back in the right mindset. And Soch actually talked to me before yesterday's game and said something. He was just like, I I've seen you pitch for a lot of years, and I'm not a guy that dances around. I don't throw 95, but my philosophy is always make them beat me. Make them beat me. If I throw that 0-0 pitch, no matter what, they haven't seen a pitch in 30 minutes. And it was whoever was hitting in the ninth, they last batted probably in the sixth. So that was what last night was about, was that a lot of responsibility, but also going back out there and just reestablishing in my own mind, because you can't allow yourself to mentally, oh, I need to be perfect, or I need to do this. The last pitch of the game was right down the middle. I mean, it really was. And but that's what you get when you challenge people and you trust yourself. But turning the page has always been easy for me. And much easier now with a family, because I go home, I wake up, all my little boy Ripken wants to do is, Dad, we're going to the beach today. We're going to the beach. I don't care about anything, we're going to the beach. So that's what I did this morning. And that made that, adding family to the equation has really made baseball a lot more satisfying, because you don't carry the baggage with you. It's not all your work.
Can you talk a little bit about your father
Yeah.
and the impact?
Well, my dad was my hero. He was, I grew up in Austin, Texas, and in Austin, Texas, still to this day, I'm James Street's son, which a lot of people think of that as, I don't know, maybe they get intimidated by it, maybe they think of it as they want to establish themselves, and you see people rebel against that idea. I was always raised to think of it as a privilege, and my dad always begged us as kids, but the good ones, they learn from their mistakes. The great ones, they learn from other people's mistakes. I've made a bunch of mistakes. No one's perfect. And then he was really big, which I think has helped me more than anything getting into the big league life, teach me about the idea of hype, the idea of who you are as an individual, and what really makes you you. And he was known, there was a play, 4th and 3, he rolls out left, there's a naked bootleg, throws a pass with 3 defenders on him, 43-yard, 4th and 3 on national television. There were like 5 presidents, or future presidents, the Bush family, the Clintons, Nixon, Lyndon, LBJ, all at this game. You got to shake all their hands after the game. And he's like, but people call me a winner because of that game. People say that I'm great because of that game. People say that, I've gone on to do this, I've gone on to do this, I've gone on to do this because of that game. And so winning is real. Winning is very important. But what do they call me if he drops that pass? What do they call me? Who am I? Who am I really? And so he's like, I'm same guy, same thoughts, same brain, same life, I threw the same pass. Dude just dropped it, Is that what I tell people? And so don't get caught up in what everybody's telling you about yourself, and don't get caught up when everybody's telling you that you're my son and you need to be this and you need to be this. You need to decide what you want to be and then be the best at it. Because I don't care if you're the best janitor in the world, if you're the best teacher in the world, you're going to be happy. And that's what he defined as winning, as being the best you can be. He was like, money causes more problems than it solves. And he was like, but if you follow it, you'll find the answer. So just remember that, people, they'll love you for a certain period of time. They'll after Sunday night's game in Kansas City, I mean, it was fun to read some of the stuff online. Which people say, don't read all that stuff. I love reading it because, you see people panic, and then you get mad at first because, why don't they trust me more than this? How is it one game and they get rid of me just like that? You're ready to move on. But you then reconcile with the fact, okay, and then you let it motivate you a little bit. And that is kind of part of that process of not really believing the hype ever. Not really, every single time I take that mound, I'm trying to prove that I deserve a chance for that next save. Or, when I'm raising my kids, it's about, what am I trying to teach them in that moment? What is the purpose of what I'm doing? And that was really my dad more than anything. Was he used to say, never take a lazy step. And I think that more than anything is what I try to do.
This is a group of very successful business people from within our community. Your dad, his post-sports career, he talked about the business and the family business before he lost him.
Yeah, my dad passed away on October 1st, 2013. And that was a pretty serious day for a lot of reasons. when he died on that Monday, I had a beard like no other beard. I mean, I've been growing it out the whole season, and you had to go home and shave because we had to go back to the office. He had a business of 300 employees across 32 states. That they were, to them, it was about their life at that point in time, and the president and CEO had just passed away, and that lesson taught me so much about him as who he was as a leader, as a person. But on April 1st, 1990, he filed for bankruptcy. He was completely, and I was 7 years old, so again, I didn't know it. I never knew my upbringing. I knew when I was 5, we lived in this gigantic house, and I still go look at it, I'm like, whoa, that's a big house. Like, that was pretty, which was just a testament of my dad's effort and will. But on April 1st, 1990, which is at the tail end of the savings and loans in Texas, and he was in some oil deals and some stuff, we moved to a much tinier house. I go look at that house, I'm like, that's a tiny house. Like, there were 6 of us, but it was in the woods. So my dad had 5 boys, 4 with my mom, and I mean, to us, it was like, and he was so perfect at spinning. He would be like, oh, boys, we're going to the woods. You're going to be able to play in the mud. The other house was just pure suburbia, and I'm just thankful for that because he was always big on no excuses. And even in his passing, I learned so much about that I can remember December 6th, probably the second worst day of my life. And that was when everybody came asking me, well, what's our Christmas bonus going to be? And I'm like, well, 1, I don't know how to calculate that. 2, I feel like my dad just died, so I know we're talking. But I learned there's no excuses. These people, it's more important, like they have a family, and I could hear them in my head be like, bud, like just check your ego, remember that. They were expecting this. They were doing this. They were doing this. And I really give my mom a lot of the credit because she took over that business, which at the time, there were smaller type companies. One of them was the largest of its kind in the country in a very specialized field, which was mass tort litigation and structured settlements, which I knew a lot about just from being his son. But, my favorite thing in talking about him was how many years it was, net 300 employees, not one contract, not one piece of paper, just all handshake deals. And I learned how naive that was after the fact. And I tell him all the time, Dad, I will never do that. But it was the respect that he carried from his employees, and it was also the respect that he showed them, because he lived up to every word, and we as a family in his passing tried to live up to every word. But I also learned that playing baseball, and this is a slight tangent, but I wanted to quit baseball in 2012, not because I didn't like baseball, but you get jaded. You get this idea of, oh, well, I've played baseball, I've kind of done the thing for the last 10 years, I made enough money to where I can go to, now I want to go compete in something else. And so I expressed that to my dad, Dad, I want to come work with you. He's like, Bud, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. He's like, do you know how easy it is? He's like, you wake up January 1st with a guaranteed contract. You get to play the game you love. And when you're done, you'll be 40. He's like, Bud, when I was 40, we were moving into that house in the woods. So, if you think you've got all the time in the world, and I learned that, and that was one of his lessons in passing was, I learned how difficult it really was. Except, you think you can get out there and compete, you think you can kind of achieve at that level, but it took him 23 years to get to that level, working as hard as he possibly could, and it's made me love baseball so much more, that experience in those companies. And now my younger brother runs a lot of them. He was actually getting his MBA at the time from the University of Texas, and he wanted to quit. He wanted to quit his MBA, and we wouldn't let him. But my dad was just somebody who I think taught me to treat people with respect, and taught me that at the end of the day, respect is the ultimate reward. That's playing baseball. he used to say, "Bud, if you get out of this game and you can't fill a foursome, you've done something wrong. You know, if all you are is home runs and saves and money in the bank, then you know, be a good teammate, be a good person." He used to say that in life it's important to get from A to B, because as he said, he was very happy that his teammate caught that pass. That changed his life forever. Winning is important, but he said getting from A to B is how you got there is just as important, because someday, and excuse my language, but he'd say, "Someday, Bud, you're going to be 90 years old, and you ain't going to have shit to do except remember all the shit you did." What you did, Bud, then life becomes a prison sentence, and life becomes your prison cell. So I'm just telling you, Bud, be proud of who you are when you're doing it. So that was my dad.
Thanks, Houston.
I'd like to open up for some questions.
Yes, sir.
I would echo what Sarah said. I think you have been Mr. Angel over the last 30 decades. You've been fantastic. Houston, there's a lot of talk about, you mentioned your father in business, and we all know in business you have to keep developing new audiences, whether you have products or services. If you were commissioner of baseball, what might you do to change the game? There's a lot of talk about the speed, the pace of the game, which was America's national pastime. What would you change, particularly with young boys coming up, to keep them engaged with this great sport?
Yeah, I think they're starting to do it a little bit, but you see social media being such a big part of the game. LeBron James, 23 million Twitter followers. You go in the NFL, Drew Brees, who went to my high school, 2 million Twitter followers. Mike Trout, 600,000. So I think the game needs to do a better job of making the game about the individual players, really highlighting the youngsters, because that's who you fall in love with. That's who I fell in love with, was Nolan Ryan and Pedro Martinez and Greg Maddux and closers, Dennis Eckersley. And back then there was nowhere to see them, so I had to go seek them out. And yeah, I think the speed of the game is important. I think what they've done with the clock is extremely important. I do think, though, that the beauty of coming to watch a game in person is the ability to throw a pitch, have a conversation, throw another pitch, have a conversation. Football, you can't really do that. It's loud, and noise is a part of the game. But I think more than anything, if I was commissioner for a day, or if I was commissioner for a week, I would really make a push. I would really make a push to not necessarily, I don't know how to put this, but to have more kids at the ballpark feeling more engaged one-on-one. And I've had some ideas on the front as far as simple ways for baseball players. What do we do on the road? We sit in our hotel room a lot, like, which is a pure waste of equity. As far as you've got Mike Trout sitting in his hotel room, like, how cool would it be for kids to do a video chat? You know what I mean? Like, what makes kids so cool, what makes kids drawn to the sport is that they can touch it, they can feel it, they can taste it. It's hard to get kids to come to the field, and I worry about that. I think they just, and this is totally off the wall, but they did like between kids from the ages of like 8 to 24, who were the most famous people to them in the world. And that includes Brad Pitt, that includes everybody, all of them YouTube stars. All of them. The top 5 were all YouTube people. 3 of them gamers. 3 of them people that play Nintendo. And I tell guys all the time, I say, listen guys, the only reason you make money is because somebody can sell it. And if tomorrow they come up with cricket hopping, if you can figure out a way to make that cool, you will see cricket farms, there will be drug testing for crickets. There will be a real push. There will be stadiums, these miniature stadiums, kids will buy them and kids will raise crickets. And it's just a metaphor for the idea of you got to continue to sell the game to the younger generation. And the younger generation is is one, bigger than the next generation, and two is they don't connect the way we all connect. They sit at a table and they don't even look at each other. And you can get mad at them for that, but I mean, every generation has always gotten mad at the next generation. Never has seemed to change the progress. And so that's what I would do, is I would really, you can't recreate Mike Trout though. You can't fake Mike Trout. That is the one thing. But you can't send Mike Trout to Dillard's and to Macy's at every city. One, he doesn't have the time. Two, you can't pay him enough money. And three, it's too much energy. It'll take away from who he is on the field. So I would create much more tangible assets to where you can get inroads to the players. Because talking to me on Twitter is just not, I don't think it will be enough for the next 8-year-old.
I have an aspiring senior who's a scholar athlete and looking at water polo at the next level. What advice would you give her in terms of your college athletic career?
Same thing my dad told me, nothing good happens after midnight. That was the first thing he said. One of the things he also said though was, he goes, you're only going to be as good as what you're willing to sacrifice. And that was part of the message. Told me to get my grades, which was something that I did very diligently my first couple years. And then baseball became a reality my junior year. And I told him, I was like, Dad, I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket. But more than anything, I would say, every single day, you don't get this time back. And this was a message for my mom. She was amazing at staying present, at just stay present. Because it doesn't matter if you're a Major League Baseball player. It doesn't matter if you end up going to the Olympics in the sport you're playing. But it does matter that you appreciate today. And as we all know, I mean, most of us would love to go back to college. It was an awesome time. Because there's and also to explain, my mom was amazing at explaining to me that you think you have pressure. You think that there's pressure. You don't have bills. You might have a little bit of debt, but you don't have. And so explaining to me to stay present and just don't always think about, well, after finals I'll get to do this, and then after this, enjoy every single day, because when it's done, then you have pressure. You gotta go get in the job, you gotta work. Monday becomes, you can't just skip class on Monday, which we're all gonna do, and go hang out with your friends. So, enjoy college, but remember that, if you want to be great at your sport, it's what you're willing to sacrifice. Not only sacrifice physically, but sometimes mentally, but more than anything, stay present.
Thank you so much.
The Orange County Forum is brought to you through the generous support of the Orange County Register and our sustaining partners. For more information about the Orange County Forum, call 949-588-9884. The Orange County Forum is a nonprofit organization. Your contributions are tax deductible.